Hello everyone and welcome to Electron Empire. Today we'll talk about everything related to cooling from airflow to water coolings. At the end of this video you'll know what are the different things you need to have a proper cooling. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to learn more about PCs. The first thing we'll talk about is the general airflow of the computer. Good airflow is important as a bad airflow will just keep the hot air in the computer. The airflow heavily depends on the case. There are two types of cases, the classical ones and the fish tank ones. In a classical case, a good airflow is when the air enters from the front, sometimes from the right, and gets out from the top and the back. In a fish tank case, the air should enter from the bottom and the right and get out from the top and back. The airflow is also depending on your fans. A smaller fan will have to spin faster to push as much air as a big fan, which will result in more noise. Fans come in different sizes, such as 100mm, 140mm, or even 200mm, but most PC cases only support up to a certain size. Every fan has a CFM, and the higher it is, the more air it can push. Air coolers are one of the two methods to cool a CPU. They are low budget friendly and are good for entry and mid-range CPUs. An air cooler power is defined by two things. The CFM, which is how much air it can push, and the heat pipes, which will be used to dissipate heat. But the best way to compare is still to look up some benchmarks. Compared to water cooling, an air cooler is usually weaker but way cheaper and have a longer lifespan. The main part of an air cooler are the cold plate, the heat pipes, the radiator, and the fan itself. The cold plate is on the CPU and the heat will be transferred from the cold plate to the radiator through the heat pipes, and the fan will then dissipate the heat of the radiator. A water cooling is the second way to cool a CPU. The water cooling, as its name says, will use liquid to cool the CPU. There are two different types of water cooling, the all-in-one and the custom. All-in-one water coolings are the most popular. They cost more than air cooler but are also more efficient. They are composed of two main parts, the radiator and the pump. The cold liquid comes in the pump to cool the CPU, the hot liquid is then sent back to the radiator and heat is dissipated by fans on it. There are three main sizes of radiators, 360mm, 240mm and 120mm, but most of 120mm water cooling aren't worth it. In some cases there are also 480mm, but it's quite rare. The bigger your radiator, the better, but some PC cases may be too small. Another very important thing is where you place your radiator. One thing to know is that in every water cooling there will be some air bubbles. You do not want those air bubbles to be in the pump, as it will make cooling less efficient. That's why your radiator should always be higher than your pump and ideally be placed on the top of your case or on the front with the pipes at the bottom. Here's a diagram about where to put your radiator. Custom water coolings, on the other hand, are more expensive than all-in-ones, but sometimes more efficient than a traditional all-in-one. They are composed of a pump, a full tank, a radiator, and the usual cold plate put on the CPU. In those water coolings, you have to set up every component one by one, but the result can be really nice. It is also the only way to make a water-cooled GPU, as it's rare to see GPUs with all-in-one water cooling. You can even water cool your RAM with this. Last but not least, the thermal paste. It is put on the CPU and will transfer the heat from the CPU to the cooling system. What matters the most is the conductivity of the paste, the higher the better. Without thermal paste, your cooling system will just be useless, so don't neglect it. And this is the end of this video on cooling. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed it. That was Electron Empire, and see you next time!